Hello and welcome everybody to this course, Technology Forecasting for Strategic Decision Making. I am Professor Bala Ramudurai and I have with me Professor Dimitri Kucharavi. So we are very happy to have you on board for this course. We are starting off with the first session. This is going to be the session where we give you an introduction to this course itself. This is called Technology Forecasting for Strategic Decision Making. A little bit about myself. I am an innovation consultant and a professor of design thinking, entrepreneurship and technology forecasting. I was a technology forecasting research fellow, Marie Curie research fellow in Politecnico di Milan, Italy. We developed a technology forecasting methodology called Format, and this is a industry academia project funded by the People Marie Curie Actions IAPP group, European Union funding body. This is where I met our co-teacher for this course, Professor Dimitri Kucharavi. We worked together on this project, and I have learnt a lot from him through our interactions during the project and after that as well. One day we were talking about NPTEL and SWAYAM, and he got very intrigued about the platform and the number of users there are in this particular platform. And we got talking, and we said, I was describing to him design thinking, the course, and how teachers, learners, students have adopted this methodology, embraced it from various walks of life, various disciplines. They've taken it, but then we thought about what is really ahead. How do we look at something, at the road ahead, at the course ahead? What is going to happen next? So that sort of led us to the question of how do these learners, the people who have gone through, say, a problem-solving methodology like design thinking, how can they take current decisions on innovation itself, in a business context? So that sort of led us to this course itself. How do we make our decisions on current technology? So this was the main question that we asked ourselves. So that led us to the creation of this entire course that you see right in front of yourself. And it definitely gives me great pleasure to introduce today our co-teacher for this course, Professor Dimitri Kucharavi. I'm indeed very, very fortunate and happy to have him for this course on SWAYAM or NPTEL. So Dimitri, over to you. Can you please tell us about yourself, introduce yourself about to our learners?
Hello everybody. Hello from Strasbourg, France. I'm Dimitri Kucharavi. Currently, I'm working at Strasbourg University. Particularly, now I'm a researcher in humanist laboratory at the Strasbourg Business School. And I'm also teaching technology forecasting, knowledge economy, and innovation and strategy courses in France and in Italy. And my research interests now for the last 16 years are focused on technology management and in particularly strategic forecasting of technology change. And on logistic warehousing design also as a practical application. Well, Mala, could you explain a bit about the course?
Sure. So thanks, Dimitri, for your introduction. I'm sure we have a lot to learn from you during the course of this few weeks that we're going to be presenting this course to our learners. When we thought of delivering such a course to our NPTEL audience, we said that we'll start by setting up a context in which this technology forecasting actually works. So we set it called strategic decision making. That's where the broad context in which we operate. So that may sound like a mouthful, However, it is the context in which the technology really operates. So, in which we have the need to look at what's coming up ahead, the forecast that we need to do. This is the business context that we look at. Business really needs decisions made today, or in some cases, worst cases, they will have to do it yesterday. So, it's very urgent that they make decisions in the near term for something that may happen in the future. Okay, so we as technology managers or business managers may not be certain about what may really happen in the future. So we are taking educated guesses based on our own instinct, our own experience, where the voice inside us sort of guides us towards a certain decision. Okay, this is a good idea. This definitely, we have accumulated experience. You have accumulated all this wisdom from what has ever happened so far, which is a good idea. But sometimes we ourselves may not be 100% sure. We may not be 100% sure at all about what's happening. Okay, so in this course, we sort of think that this method will help in making this decision, make it a bit easier on you, the decision maker, or on people who are working with such decision makers, to help them saying that this is what we've come out with. So we have a sort of stepwise approach, a process based approach for this. We'll guide you through these steps, of course. The step 0, as we call it, is setting up the business context in which the decision has to be made. So step 0 is setting up the parameter, so to speak, of the business context itself. Okay. Then the next step 1, as we call it, is to frame what is the question to be answered via this technology forecasting exercise that you're willing to carry on here. Okay. So we call it TF for short. TF is technology forecasting. Okay. Then once we have made the question clear, we need to answer those questions. That's the heart of this technology forecasting methodology itself, is to answer these questions using 2 methods. You can see one is the qualitative, again using your instinct. This is where your instinct, your experience, your wisdom comes in. You can use your imagination, creativity as well. This is all form the part of the qualitative methods. Okay, and lastly, we use quantitative methods, where we crunch numbers, take numbers, data from out there, or data from, if you're within a company, you take those data, and we will suggest certain models that can be applied so that you can make sense of the data, look at how things pan out in the future based on data. Then finally you sum it all up, okay, through the qualitative methods and the quantitative methods, and now apply it back to the business decision itself. So you start with the business context, make the questions, use the qualitative methods and the quantitative methods, combine it, and now make your business decision. Okay, so this is sort of the broad structure in which we are going to operate. Just to help you, I'm going to show you a picture. Before we get into the specifics of what all we're going to discuss in the course, I just want to show you this picture. Just take a guess. Where could this picture taken from? What does this depict? Any guesses? Just guess it. Some of my students take their phone and take a snapshot of it and search on the internet. You can do that too. It's okay with us. You can freeze the video, take a picture of it, and look up on the internet. Yes, some of you may have figured it out for yourselves. This is a scene from a play called Macbeth, written by William Shakespeare. This is a particular painting. Now it's in Musée d'Orsay in France, a museum not so far off from where you live, Professor Dimitri. So, a 3-hour high-speed train right away. This is from Macbeth, Act 1, Scene 3.
1 hour 45 minutes.
Hour 45. Okay, I stand corrected. Okay. So this particular scene is very interesting, and I really like it. I'll just read it out for you. This is the set of dialogues from there. In this scene, what you saw were 5 characters. On your left were Banquo and Macbeth. they come across three shady figures in a misty, foggy land. Macbeth says, "Speak if you can. What are you?" And the first witch, the witch says, "All hail Macbeth, hail to thee, Thane of Glamis." The second witch says, "All hail Macbeth, hail to thee, Thane of Cawdor." Third witch says, "All hail Macbeth, thou shalt be king thereafter." So Banquo, his friend and colleague to Macbeth, says, "Good sir, why do you start and seem to fear things that do sound so fair?" Banquo says to the witches, "In the name of truth, are ye fantastical, or that indeed which outwardly ye show? My noble partner you greet with present grace and great prediction of noble having and of royal hope. That he seems rapt withal, to me you speak not. If you can look into the seeds of time and say which grain will grow and which will not, speak then to me, who neither beg nor fear your favors nor your hate." So the first witch says, "Hail." Second witch says, "Hail." And third witch says, "Hail." I really like this particular dialogue. This is what caught my attention. If you can look into the seeds of time and say which grain will grow and which will not. So this is for me the essence of the course itself. Okay. Dimitri, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, with difficulties, you
Okay.
appear and disappear.
Yes, my
And
internet.
I believe that recording on your side continue, but the quality of connection is not so good.
Yes, I hope the audio is also recorded here. Okay, so I'll
continue your part.
Okay.
You can continue your part and after this.
Okay, sure. Thank you. So there are 5 characters that you saw in this scene. Macbeth is a general in the army of King Duncan of Scotland. Banquo, his friend, and is a general in the army also. The 3 witches that you saw, Shakespeare refers to them as wayward or weird sisters. So these are the 5 characters. Now, before you wonder what this got to do with the technology forecasting, I'll spell it out for you. In our context, really the Macbeth is the decision maker. Banquo is the analyst. Okay, we are making a sort of parallel. The first, which is the question that we ask for technology forecasting that you saw me highlight a few minutes ago. Which two could be a representative of the qualitative for methods that we use, and which 3 is the quantitative method that we use in the course also. Okay, so to keep it in your memory, in case you forget everything else, this picture, if it remains in your memory saying, I saw this and now I know this is related to technology forecasting, remember that you are the analyst trying to help the decision maker. Those are Macbeth and Banquo, and the 3 witches form the question, the quantitative methods, and the qualitative methods. So this will serve as a hook for yourself to keep in your head what are the steps we have covered in our course. Okay, so that's why we covered this. And one practical example I'd like to give: if you have weather like what we have today, morning it is raining, now it's a bit bright outside, maybe it will get sunny a bit. So my basic problem is I have to venture out tomorrow. Okay, so I have to venture out in a weather like this. I don't know for sure. So that to me is the business context in which I operate. Okay, so now the context is clear. Now my decision that I have to take is, where should I carry the umbrella or not? So that for me is the step 0, where we have set the context and I've asked the question, should I carry the umbrella or not, forms step 1. Okay. Step 2 is qualitative. Around this time of the year in my place, I know that it rains unannounced. The probability of getting rain is definitely very high. I know this from experience. I've lived in this city for about 6 years now. I know that in the time that we are in right now, it definitely rains. Okay, so that's my instinct, intuition, whatever you want to call it, my experience. Okay, I've used it now. And the third part of it is quantitative. I check whether people have crunched numbers to tell me that, wow, there is a 70% chance that it's going to rain. And guess what? I am going to take the umbrella for when I'm venturing out tomorrow. So that is my practical example that one can relate to covering the steps. So Dimitri, so this was a very frivolous sort of light example. Now to up the seriousness a bit, I have one question for you. And you worked in this context a lot and you have gained a lot of experiences. It would be great if we can hear it from you, the types of strategic decision making. What is strategic decision making? What are the types of these contexts that we talk about? So that will be great to hear from you, Dimitri.
Okay. Thank you, Paula, for giving me stage. And I'd like to try to sum up out of these stories and out of this introduction some kind of useful rules that we are going to use in our course. First of all, when we are talking about strategic decision making and strategic forecasting, we have to make clear what is a strategy. Okay, and if you look to the strategy through the dictionary, we can find something like that. Strategy is the general plan or set plan intended to achieve something, especially over a long period. But in our course, based on our experience, we are going to suggest you a more specific definition. And please refer to this definition in all our next exercises. We will define a strategy as a management plan for strengthening the performance and competitive advantages of the company. In context of technological forecasting for strategic decision making, we are interested to reinforce our plans such a way that when we will perform what was planned, will be beneficial for company, will increase competitive advantages of the company. So this is about strategy. An example about the weather forecast, in fact, you choose which strategy you are going to apply, to take umbrella or not to take umbrella. With example about Macbeth, those were the question also in order to make the choice. So, the second definition that we need to make clear, this is a definition of what is decision. Okay? Because we are talking about strategic decision. And once again, if you look at the dictionary, the decision, it's situation when you make a choice, what should be done or which is the best of what is possible action or what should not be done. The same way, I'd like just to suggest for your attention the working definition that we are going to use in our course, and it's a bit shorter and simple. For our decision, this is a choice. This is a choice between two or more options. And when we forecast, we need to make clear those options. We need to reduce uncertainties and to transform uncertainties to the risk. The definition of uncertainties and risk we will discuss later on, but for now it is clear, it is interesting to sum up that for us decision, this is a choice between two or more options. Okay? In order to make this choice, we have to forecast. But what is the difference between a strategic and other kind of decision? In order to understand this difference, Let us just see 3 different decisions that we usually take, which is based on taxonomy presented in academic papers. We can distinguish strategic, tactical, and operational levels of decision. What are the different areas of decision? When we are talking about operational decision, the area, this is how to use resources in production process, for instance. To take umbrella or not to take umbrella, this is operational decision. Okay, when you look to the weather forecast. When tactical decision, the area of decision, this is a more management of resources. How we are going to arrange resources. What are the functional specifications? And what kind of automation we are going to use in this process or another process? How we are going to arrange human resources? How we are going to organize process? And the different kind of regulations, all of them, those are the area of tactical decision. What is the area of strategic decision? The strategic decision usually, this is the area when we plan for the changes and when we plan for the risk. When we define the objectives of design or when we define the objective of the process. When we try to justify economically our decision, those are the strategic areas. If you just compare the different effect or impact of decision, in fact, everything is starting from strategic decision. Because a tactical decision, which are strong in a short term, in scope of decided strategy, they depend on the strategic decision. When operational decision can be considered independently, but of course they depend on the taken strategic and tactical decision. The level of decision maker who are doing those decisions. For instance, if you are talking about operational decision, normally this is a head of service, operational manager. The functional direction and the middle management usually responsible for the tactical decision. And the strategic decision usually are done by top management and senior management, which are responsible for competitiveness of all company of long-range changes. If we take one more parameter to compare these three different decisions, usually the frequency of operational decisions, they are frequent and they are predictable. We know, for instance, that we need to check weather forecast in order to take decision about to take umbrella or not to take umbrella. We know what kind of situation we will face in the coming future. Tactical decisions, they are less frequent than operational one, and they are less predictable because we need to provide resources management, we need to provide human resource decision. When the strategic decision, usually they are unique. It means we don't take strategic decision every month or every 6 months. The strategic decision they are taking for a certain period because the big changes, they need certain time to be accomplished. Let me give you some examples in order to finish this distinction and in order to understand more what is the difference of strategic decision from others. For instance, if you need to decide how to restock inventory or how to determine special offer, usually your decision is based, your choice is based on the demand forecast, on the operational forecast. When you design a marketing plan or when you develop a department budget, this is a tactical decision. How you are going to allocate available resources, and this is a tactical level. In which place you need to put more and in which place you need. And usually they are based on the forecast which can be classified as a tactical forecast, like seasonal change in in supply chain, if we are talking about supply chain. This is a tactical decision on how to prepare for certain situation like changes of the market or changes of the external situation. When we decide to entry or not to enter to the market, or when we decide to exit from certain market and new business, for instance, a company who produced the cars, they decided to start to produce heavy tracks, or the company who produced heavy tracks decided to start producing of another kind of equipment which has nothing with heavy tracks. This is strategic. Introduction of new manufacturing process. For instance, we produced our products based on the steel as a material, and we decided to introduce new manufacturing process and completely replace the steel as a basic material by certain plastic materials. Those are examples of strategies. But to support those strategic decisions, those strategic choices, which have very high impact on the competitiveness of the company and on the competitiveness of not the company and even industry, we need to be capable to forecast the future changes. Because if our decision will be in accordance with future changes, we'll win. If our decisions will be not in accordance with what is going to happen, usually we can find ourselves in a very difficult situation, and we spend resources, a lot of resources, in order to prepare, and we are not in accordance with the changes, so we lose our competitiveness and we can lose our market and everything as a company. This was my trial, to introduce you the difference. Our course mostly focused on how to support strategic decisions. There are plenty of different methods and techniques to support tactical and operational levels, which are really powerful, efficient, and effective. This is not a subject of our course. Our course mostly about this level of decision. Alan?
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much, Dimitri. That was enlightening for me. I knew a few bits of this from our discussion, but very nice. Thank you so much. So I think it's time to give our learners a glimpse of what the course will look like in terms of the objectives that we have set out to attain in this particular course. This is a very unique course in one sense that we have taken the technology and we're trying to forecast it, but also within the business context itself. So for that, we need to the course objective that we have set for learners is they should be able to recall and recognize the modern methods that are required for technology forecasting. So there could be many methods that we described during this course. They're able to recognize or even recall a few that they could use and can tell that from that during the course, the experience in the course. That's one of the objectives that we want to achieve. Then if they're able to recall the same models that they have learned and particularly defining the system scope, that's another objective attained as well in this. So in this there are terms like system to be forecast, because we are focusing on a particular technology. We call it a system to be forecast. So we take that and see what's happening with this. We want to examine that and see how it all works and how do you project it forward. So that's a system to be forecast, and we need to know the scope in which it is there. This is not the system, this is the system. So that's kind of a thing that we would do it. And lastly, I think for me personally, this is a very exciting methodology, is to fit time series data with the logistic S-curve model. Why is it exciting for me? Because this is reflects nature in several ways. This model is and with our long discussions and from the past, I know how useful it is to for looking at systems like this in a time series. Given a time series data, how can I look at it? So to me, this is the most exciting part. We will cover many examples and cases as to illustrate all these, to make sure that these objectives are met during the course itself. So, as I hinted in the start of this introduction, and we will further elaborate this particular sessions and this module will cover what is introduction itself to the technology forecasting methodology. What does it look like? So this is sort of an overview of all the terms that are involved. In case you have never heard of this, you shouldn't get scared of this. So we're introducing it to you to the basics of technology forecasting, the different terms involved, what do they mean, how do we define them. All this sort of takes place in this particular module. The second part of this case studies, Dimitri and I, both of us believe that experiential learning is the best way to learn, is one of the best ways to learn any new methodology that you can lay your hands on. So the second best way is to look at what other people have done in companies, in various other contexts. So we'll be presenting some of this which you can relate to. Okay, so case studies is what you will see as the second part, of course, I talked about the question that has to be raised, the technology forecasting question. What is the correct way to set up this project? How do we frame the questions? How do we go forward with this? How do you define the system itself? Like I talked about the system to be forecast. What is the boundary in which the system resides? How do we define it? All that goes into this particular question. What all formulates a good question to be framed? How do we frame it? With what are the components that have to be there to form a question? And of course, once you frame the question, you need the answer. How do we get the answer? Is to these three methods, which are qualitative methods, quantitative methods, and a combination method as well. So, in short, this is all we put together, and then finally it should be applied back into a decision. We sort of will wrap it up with how do we put all of this together. So this forms the basic parts of the course itself. It follows the exact the steps of the methodology like a process itself. We wanted the course structure also to reflect the methodology structure, so that we go through it in a logical manner. So that was our rationale behind this design of the course itself. In this particular course, I think the slight distinction or departure from the other NPTEL courses, and we have framed it such a way that the retention addressing our course objectives is maximum, like I said, this has to be very experiential. Ideally, we would like you to actually apply this on a technology forecasting project and take your learning from there, on a real project, to take your learning from there, work in a team. This is how Dimitri has been conducting his classes. I love such a method also. I have been conducting my classes also in such a way. So, but this is a massive open online course. So the next best thing is to make sure that the retention is high. So this is the it's going to be homeworks and a final exam. So that's going to be the broad two structures. So in part one, which is the first part that you saw in the introduction and the case studies, you will have at end of every session we will give you a homework. We hope that you will be able to answer each of these and help you retain some of the stuff that you've learned in the course. This is really beneficial in that. So you will have 4 of these for every part that we cover, and then part 3 and part 4. So the structure repeats, and of course the final exam, which is going to be so what in other NPTEL courses would be assignments is now split into 4 homework, and all of that put together is the assignment for you. Okay, and of course the final exam is not going to be very different from the other NPTEL classes. If you have taken other NPTEL courses, that is, you will have a final exam. Now the big question, Dimitri, is what about the finals? So is it how are we planning to have that in part of this course, Dimitri?
You're talking about the final exam?
Yes, final exam. This is something that the learners are really looking forward to. How is it going to, what all is it going to comprise of, and how is it?
The final exam, through the specificity of organizing of this course, we are going to organize the final exam based on the course content. In fact, you will be asked for questions and for situations which you need to recognize how they can be answered with the content of the course.
Okay.
So, in order to pass the final exam, you need to just regularly perform your homework. If you perform them regularly, I don't see any difficulties to pass the final exam for you, because it will be mostly based on what you're going to see, what you're going to participate, and what you're going to learn within those 4 parts of the course.
Fair enough. And we will have a proctored exam, as I understand, like with the other courses. The 75% of it will be a classroom-based proctored exam. The assignments, of course, the homeworks will, of course, be online. It will be multiple choice questions. Dimitri, we are thinking of also giving them some kind of application-oriented questions as well, so that they can apply what they've learned. Is my understanding correct?
Yeah. Students will see examples of application, examples of forecasting using this method, which will be suggested by us, or it will be even recorded how potential student can perform what they can learn from the course, and we are going to share this experience using video.
Excellent. I'm so excited to be part of this course. Hopefully our learners in this course will make maximum use of it, will actually take up a problem and apply it. Anything that something is not clear in this course, we'll be more than happy to answer them in the discussion forums, where we'll be looking at and looking forward to your questions, your observations. You want to go and apply and need some help with that. We can definitely help you with all that in the discussion forums itself. So Dimitri and I will look at it and will respond to it. We'll definitely make sure of that. So I'm so happy to co-teach this course with you, Dimitri, and hopefully it will be useful to the learners as well.
Yeah, thank you very much for this. Thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for NPTEL that we can organize this course. And let us go ahead.
See you in the next module then. Thank you. See you. Bye.